Well, good evening. I am the K in the BAK Talk Bros. I am Keys, and Gooch is going to be joining me here in a minute. But while we wait, let's go ahead and hit that intro.
Y'all ready for them Chiefs? Y'all ready for them Chiefs?
Man, it has been way too long, but I think we finally found a time for at least Gooch and I to record. I don't know if it's ever going to happen for Gooch, Aaron, and myself, all three to make it at the same time. But at least Gooch has agreed that we think this is going to work. So hang with me for a few minutes. I think he'll get in here. But in the meantime, if there's anything you guys want to talk about while we wait for Gooch to bless us with his presence, well, go ahead and fire away. Otherwise, I guess I'll go solo until Gooch comes. But that's not really much of a change. So sorry about that. You can hear my kids in the background. But anyway, so it has been months, guys. Aaron works 6 days a week and he works second shift. I added a new job to everything I'm doing, and I have to wake up at like 5:30 in the morning. Aaron's not getting home until 11:30 at night. And Gooch just, I mean, he's flying everywhere around the country, saving the world, saving jobs. So it's been hard to find time and energy for at least two of us to connect. But Gooch has told me that Wednesday nights will work, so that's what we're going to plan on here. And we're going to cap this thing at 9 o'clock because at 9 o'clock, uh, Thunder Dan, if you're not a fan of his channel, but if you are, check him out. He's another Chiefs content creator. But Thunder Dan and goes live at 9 o'clock Arrowhead time. So we want to respect his channel too, and other Chiefs content creators out there. So we're only going to go until 9 o'clock. If we have to, if we find out that we have to, if we're running out of time, we'll bump it up to like 7 p.m. if we have to, and we'll go from 7 to 9. But we don't really want to bleed much over 9 o'clock to respect at least Thunder Dan, 88, and some of the other people out there as well. So Gooch says he's coming, so give him a few moments. But Jeremy, you're right, man. It has been ages. Man, life has just gotten crazy for all three of us in the last 4, 5, 6 months with just all kinds of things going on. Aaron's had losses in his family. My family's moved. My wife and I have both added jobs onto everything we were already doing. And Gooch, like I said, he is saving Domino's franchises around the country. And so it's just been hard for even to get two of us uh, on here to have time. But you may have seen Gooch and you may have seen me from time to time on the Dan show as well this season. But yeah, we're gonna talk. Gooch is gonna get on here. We're gonna talk Chiefs football. Uh, there's been a lot that's went on since the last time we were on here, so I'm looking forward to it. And hopefully, you guys in the chat have some great questions for us or some topics you guys want to talk about. Otherwise, I'll just start talking about the Denver game. But I'm interested in what you guys think, and it's going to be good to see Gooch again. And yeah, one day we'll get Aaron on here. So, and Jeremy is asking if Bolton is going to play tomorrow. So, yeah, I need to check. I haven't checked today's status report. Um, So what I saw, what it looks like yesterday is Travis and Nick and George Karloftis were both limited in practice. Let's see. Here's Gooch right now.
Oh, snap, boys. We back in the building. We back. We back, baby. What's cracking? Long time no see. How's everybody doing?
Hey man, it's yeah, Jeremy said he started us off with this one right when we popped on here. So yeah, it's no lie. I told him, man, we've all just had a lot going on and
Yeah, man. It's been. Keys has a lot going on. I had a lot going on. It's good to be back though. Good to see y'all. What's up? Ah, sweet Jesus. They let anybody on. They let anybody on this pod, don't they? Hi, Liz.
yeah, man. Hey, Jeremy, it's all around, man. We've barely seen each other the last few months and since we haven't gotten to go live, but I'm going to answer Jeremy's question here really quick, Gooch. I just checked Jeremy, and according to CBS, Nick Bolton doesn't have an injury designation, and that was kind of my thought with some of these guys, especially Travis. At least in my thinking, Gooch. I don't know about yours, but in my thinking was if he was even limited in practice this week, they're gonna leave it up to tomorrow to determine whether he's gonna play. Because I think I probably would have said, we have 10 days off after Denver, so you just rest up. You've had the knee injury, the fluke knee injury, you had that ankle injury, just rest up, old man. But the fact that he was even limited kind of told me there's a pretty good chance he was going to play in this game. So I don't know what your thinking was on that.
Oh, as far as I knew and understood, everybody that was questionable was going to play. Now, if you want my opinion on it, I think you sit Kelsey or give him a pitch count. I mean, it's the Broncos, and yes, they play us tight, but I don't think this one's going to be really hard. So I think you can use this time to maybe put Justin Ross at tight end and see. He's got a big body and see what he can do. He's got almost the same skill set as Kelsey. He's just not as fluid as Kelsey yet. He's tall, he's got great hands. He can run those middle routes and keep himself from getting tagged because he wants to protect himself. I mean, I think it's going to be fun. I'm be interested. Oh, good gracious! What's
Hey,
up, Daryl?
Daryl.
How you doing, baby?
Yeah, man. Hey, Daryl, we're glad to be back. But yeah, like I said, hopefully, I don't know if it's going to happen with all three of us. Gooch and Aaron might have to go live with, by themselves, at least for a while. Gooch and I might have to go live together. And when life changes to where all three of us can go live again, we'll all be excited.
Well, me and Keys, we're the dynamic duo in the beginning, so we're here. I know I need a haircut. Look, I've been working. You know what I'm saying? You want me to stick a hat? I can stick a hat on, but I figure, hell, it's been a long time. They can see me at my worst for a day.
Yeah, see, I put my hair on. I got mine covered, but here's the thing, Liz. I'm kind of missing some hardware here. Maybe Aaron didn't. Maybe Aaron didn't give you my address.
Our back hats are missing.
Send them USPS. Worst way to go. Hey, Maui. It's great to see you. Yeah, I know Gooch will be just as excited. We were just a bit. Listen, if Gooch had gotten here on time, we probably would have been backstage super excited to see each other. But yeah, it's kind of been a shock for us because we haven't really got to see each other either. So, oh man, that bum. I mean, he's only working 6 days a week, 8, 10, 12 hours.
Man,
how dare he forget?
Bad. I had a little bit of a health scare last Thursday to where my doc was like, you don't have to take it easy. So I've been kind of being lax for the last 5 days. It was rough, but looks like we got things back under control, and I'm about to be hard at it again. So, well, not that hard, but definitely going to take time to my mother would say, work to live, not live to work. You know what I'm saying? And enjoy some of this. So, I mean, I don't know if y'all noticed, but the last time y'all saw me, I didn't have all this gray hair and the goatee and mustache. It's all there now. I got to get just for men, and I'm too pretty for gray hair. You know what I'm saying? I'm just. But we here, we back. What we talking about, Keith? We talking about Thursday? How you think it's gonna go?
Hey, there's about 7 different scenarios that are going on in my head, but and especially because we've played 2 or 3 teams now where their offense has just kind of popped up out of nowhere. Like Zach Wilson just kind of popped up out of nowhere. When we played the Broncos last year, Russ, that was the best he looked, in my opinion, all of last season was the 2 games that they played against us. Zach Wilson was I'm not going to say cooking because that's what Russ does.
Right?
He turns that chicken salad into chicken. Yeah, I don't know because the Broncos got a good run game, and that's kind of our defensive weakness. I think that's kind of by choice, right? I feel like, I don't know about you, Gooch, but I feel like the team decides that we're going to have a lead and we can get a good lead and force teams to have to abandon the run. It just hasn't happened. And half of that's been kind of refs like slowing us down and giving teams like scoring drives, like just kind of engineering them with
Right.
flags. But, man, Broncos have a great receiving core. They spent all that money on offensive line. They got a good running game. I still respect Sean Payton as a head coach, as an offensive mind. And the defensive players are still there and legit. It's just Vance Joseph has completely bombed that team. But one thing I know, and again, it kind of goes back to the offenses, even the defenses, every defensive coordinator has switched up from what they normally do when they play the Chiefs. And this is kind of like if you're Vance Joseph, this is your second wind to save your job, in my opinion. So I think he's got to switch things up, and he's got to kind of George Costanza it and do everything, backwards from what he has been. But I don't know. I want to hear what you have to say.
I think last year was, look, regardless of what you think of Russell Wilson, he's a smart quarterback. And I think the reason why he looked so great against us is because our guys were still rookies, and technically they were still learning where they needed to be and how to really play the position in the NFL. So he kind of abused them a little bit. I mean, we still won, but that would be outside of Snead. That's what I would say was the main reason. But this year, I think now, see, you said Vance Joseph, and it almost looks like the defense is giving up. Like, that's what it looks like to me. Like, they realize that he sucks, and so they're just kind of out there. You know what I'm saying? And it's going to be detrimental. But again, like you said too, now, Zach Wilson, the one thing that everybody has said is that the reason Zach Wilson looks so good is because Hackett changed. He was calling the plays like Aaron Rodgers was back there, and then he started doing what Zach is good at. Dropping them back 3 steps, giving them 1-2 reads. If you see get the ball out. If one's covered, chuck the 2. You know what I'm saying? And that's where he was beating us. He was getting the ball out of his hands in less than 2.5 seconds. And that's 3-step dropping out. You know what I'm saying? Not giving anybody any time. And he looked good, and then he had all that time against Denver because, well, was it Denver? Because they don't really have much of a pass rush, and he looked bad. I'm worried that they're going to think it's a trap game because all the media keeps asking them about is the 15 straight wins in a row and blah, 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 blah. And I don't care who you are in the NFL. Like, the one thing you don't want to do, what is it, is back a wounded cat in a corner, back a wounded dog in the corner. Because now they've already been beat. They've been dropped by 50. They got beat by the Jets. Now you're talking about the Chiefs beating them 15 times in a row. You know, you don't want this to be the game that they figure it out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and
That's
this
my
is the
opinion.
game. This is the game Sean Payton is getting paid for. This game and the next game, right? I
Oh,
mean,
for sure.
essentially, this is what his contract is beat the Chiefs twice a year, beat the Chiefs twice a season, So, yeah,
And
it'll be
and
interesting.
and believe it or not, now's the time to get us. You know what I'm saying? I mean, now's the time. Our defense is one of the best in the league, which hasn't happened since Trent Green days. Before that, Joe Montana days. When was the last time our defense was this good and this fast? Um, and our offense is struggling. You had to think about it, right? Like I'm really
Yeah.
having to think about it. But our offense is it's not really struggling because I mean we put up 27, but with everybody saying, "Oh, we need new wide receivers. We need new wide receivers." What y'all don't get is Juju had been playing for 7, 8 years before we got him. MVS has always been what MVS is, a straight line target. He was like that in Green Bay. And now you're surrounded by guys. Justin Ross, okay, yes, this is his second or third year here. He was injured last year. So you can read the playbook all you want. It's not live shots. You know what I'm saying? So he's learning. Be disappointed in Sky that he can't, for some reason, with all the talk in training camp and last year, he still looks like the rookie. And Rashee Rice, who is the rookie, looks like the second year player. You know what I'm saying? But you still have to understand, like, I think you said it on Dan's podcast. Kelsey is more the graduate assistant or the graduate student teaching all these guys being a decoy so they can get comfortable for the stretch run. Like, we're not seeing a lot of Justin Ross. We're not seeing a lot of all this stuff that everybody's like, where's this guy? Where's this guy? It's a long season, and you don't want to put everything on film. Because I really believe once we get past the bye and Minihue is back and they start letting out Keandre Coburn, and I think they're going to start integrating Ross in them more, you're going to start seeing a lot because now people are prepared for the Chiefs up to this, and now we're going to add another wave. And we're running Clyde because now teams have to prepare for Clyde. I mean, really, if you think about it, Clyde is easy to tackle. So you're saving Pacheco, who's going to be like, who is Derrick Henry in Napoleon's body with the way that he runs. And you're saving him for like those cold games, November, December, January, where you're going to need the running game and the field gets, more condensed and the play gets faster. I still like the Chiefs 27-24. I think it's close.
Okay. Well, I think it's going to be a double digit win on this, and
Really?
I'm not saying that arrogantly. Like, all right, here's my justification for it. I think that, and I think each week, I think the receivers, are getting better. And I've heard it said that Sky's kind of doing the things, kind of running the routes and doing the things that none of these young kids can kind of do yet. And so he's kind of being put in that position, and so I think the hope is that, it's the opposite of, it's like what Spags has done with the defense over the years. Find out what his players are good at, tinker around, play around until the bye week. And then in the bye week, you make those changes, putting all the players in the positions to succeed where their strengths are at. And I think at least that's what I'm hoping we're going to see with this receiver room, that they're kind of tinkering around. Sky is kind of, he knows the different positions. So he's kind of filling in right now while they figure out what the younger guys can do. And then once we get to the bye week, that's when we start seeing Sky and everybody being deployed to their strengths. It's been my theory, and I'm sure you agree with this, Gooch, that the kind of the plan was for Travis to be the training wheels for the offense, while the offensive tackles learned, while Donovan Smith got familiar and got that chemistry with Joe Tooney, and while Juwan Taylor, got familiar and got that chemistry with Trey Smith, and while Justin Ross and Rashee Rice and you can even say Kadarius Toney, because this is only his second year in this offense. Sky Moore, it's a notoriously hard offense. Even Juju, as you said, who is a 7-8 year vet, said last year it was a really hard. He had to study a lot to be picking up the offense, and he's a vet. He didn't have to worry about all those things that rookies and second, even third year players had to worry about, and he still said it was hard.
I think he said it took him almost to the end of the season to really kind of get a handle on it. Like he was still learning every week, that offense. You know what I'm saying? I'm with you. I think the rotation is here. And something that you said really kind of made me think about it, because as far as like the deployment, because if you look at it, Sky isn't really even getting targets, like maybe 1 or 2 a game. And Mahomes is like, watch out for Sky this year. So it's almost like they're not throwing those balls so they can throw them and catch people by surprise later. And if you want my honest opinion, I think they're really, with their Justin Ross packages, I think MVS is gone, and that's Justin Ross's spot. That's what I think. They have the same build. They're tall. Obviously, he's not as bulky as Kelsey, so he can't be the tight end, but he can fill that MVS role with more routes. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's a better route runner than MVS already, and he can create the separation. You know what I'm saying? And he can high point the ball, which is great. MVS doesn't really high point a lot. He's, he got to use his speed to get open and then hope his stone hands turn into Charmin on a few balls. But I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun year. I'm super excited.
Yeah. So, so my thinking with it, why I think it's going to be a double-digit win, is because, last year they played us close. I don't remember, were both of them 3-point games? I mean, they were both one score, I'm pretty sure. But Evero was one hell of a rookie defensive coordinator last year, and he had the defense playing with the talent they had. Like you said, it looks like, the defense is kind of given up on Vance Joseph, and I don't know if that's the case or not, but it's certainly night and day difference, and you can argue that Sean Payton is the Evero of the offense, and so Vance Joseph is the Nathaniel Hackett of the defense, and so it kind of flip-flops. But for me, that plays into the very strengths of this team. Even if Denver's offense is good, like you've said, we're looking at one of the best. I don't think it's a stretch to say right now, the best defense Mahomes has ever played with, even in college. I don't know about high school, but definitely in college, because they had no defense, which is why he's been so great here, his whole time in the NFL. And so when I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking, okay, we know they have a good running game. We know that Russ can still connect on those deep shots. Marvin Mims has been a great rookie receiver for them. Fun to watch. But the offense overall, even last year, yeah, Russ looked great last year, but our defense wasn't that great. As you said, we had a bunch of rookies playing last year, and they've only gotten better this year, and we've only added pieces to them. Drew Tranquil, Mike Edwards. We're going to get a Menahu back for the second, game in this matchup. Dana's looking even better this year. George Karloftis is looking better. Yeah, he's injured, and he's injured going into this game. But all in all,
hamstring, right?
What's that?
Hamstring,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I believe so. And so, looking at it, it's kind of that the offense looks like their strength as far as how they play, not where all the talent is. Although I do think they have a very talented receiving core. But it's like that's their strength, and our defense is like that much better. People are learning how good Detroit is, and I've been saying it since before the season began, because they weren't paying attention to how Detroit finished last year. Detroit's a great offense. The Jags are one of the top offenses and teams in the AFC. The Jets have a great defense. We have went up against some great defenses so far. And Denver has talented players. They don't have as many as they had in the past, and they certainly don't have the defensive coordinator that they had in the past. So for me, I see this as, the Chiefs have both the offensive advantage against their defense and the defensive advantage against their offense. And you could even say the coaching advantage, because when's the last time Sean Payton got a ring? Like what, 2013? I don't remember when it was. How long ago has it been? I can Google it here really quick.
Shoot, it's been a minute. Indianapolis. Peyton was still a quarterback then. Yeah.
So, I mean, you could say Andy Reid, there's the advantage there. And certainly there's an advantage with Patrick Mahomes over Russ, so, and it's a home game, and you have the Pro Football Hall of Fame honoring Derek Thomas, so you kind of got that little emotional kick there, for whatever that's worth. It didn't necessarily mean a whole lot when the team got their Super Bowl rings on opening night, but yeah, that's kind of my thinking with it. Liz says that Frank's going to try to board our bus to come home.
Chris is already trying to get Veach to bring Frank back because they believe Denver's selling. But there's really only two players that I would want off the Denver Broncos, and that's Judy and Surtain. It's the only two.
You don't like Justin Simmons?
I think Justin Simmons is great, but I also like Cook, and I like Mike Edwards, and I like now if we bring over Simmons and get rid of Jay Reed, I mean I could live with that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, getting even a little bit younger. But Justin Simmons is going to want too much money, and they're already going to have to pay Chris after this year. And the only thing that's really saving them is the fact that they won't have to pay Chamari Connor or McDuffie or Cook or Najee Johnson or Jalen Watson for another 2 or 3 years. That's the only thing that's going to help them.
But Snead is going to get paid.
Oh, and it's not going to be by us. It's not going to be by us. Not that I don't want them to. Like, I wish they would. But that knee, and we've seen it with secondary players and Chiefs, and they've had that nagging injury, and we've given them that big contract, and then all of a sudden, like, I love Eric Berry. I think he's one of the greatest safeties. Like, during his time, it would be Ed Reed and then Eric Berry. You know what I'm saying? When they played in that order, in my opinion. And we gave him all that money, and then he was down, and that knee has been bothering Snead since the middle of last year. And now he's playing on it. I just worry that somebody's gonna offer him, some crazy Jalen Ramsey in his prime type contract, and we're gonna let him go. But we've got all those young secondary pieces, so And in my opinion, and this is probably going to be unpopular, I think McDuffie's better than Snead anyway.
Yeah, that's definitely it's definitely unpopular, but you've definitely came around from draft time last year where you were concerned about it. And
I was, yeah. Oh, yeah. But if you watch the kid play, like, okay, last year rookie again, but if you watched him this year, like, he really doesn't give up many catches. He doesn't like him and I guess him and Snead both. If you can hold JJ to, oh, there you go. There you go, right there. Oh, is that Snead? I wish we
that's
had
Snead.
McDuffie's.
That
I
is
wish we had
Snead versus
McDuffie's.
number one receivers this year.
Okay, so he had 14 yards there. The other 12 yards came on McDuffie because he only had 4 catches, 26 yards, or something like that. No, man, it's tough. I like McDuffie. I like McDuffie now. I hated the pick when he was drafted. I can't remember who I wanted, but it wasn't him.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, I just threw this up because again, Snead's going to get paid, and I don't think it's going to be by Kansas City. And I threw out this theory, conspiracy theory that I had that it was kind of my thought, Gooch, that the Chiefs had planned, because all we heard in the offseason and training camp and even after the injury, so I don't think it was hype, was that Najee Johnson was ahead of Jalen Watson and Joshua Williams. So it was kind of my conspiracy theory that the Chiefs were legitimately going to have him as the number 3 to kind of see if he could replace Snead next year. And then he got injured, and that just kind of, if that was the plan, it kind of threw a wrench in that plan. But regardless, Snead, as everyone could see from the numbers there, has really balled out this year. So,
well, first of all, the contract year is undefeated. We all know that. Secondly, they could still wait on Najee and just franchise Snead. But if you franchise Snead, you have to pay Chris. Like that's the thing. Like you can't do one or
right.
the other. Like you have to pay Chris if you franchise Snead, and then wait for Najee to see if Najee can lock it down. But that's if you don't. I mean, that's if you're sure you can sign Chris, because you're gonna need that franchise tag for him if he's being antsy. But then, I mean, it's the one thing that Veach does well is find gems in later rounds. So even if Snead were to go, the compensatory pick he'd probably get from that, and then I think he'd be able to find somebody. We're talking about quarterbacks in next year's draft. There's a lot of good corners in next year's draft too, but nobody's talking about them. You know what I'm saying? And with good reason. You've got the kid from USC, Caleb. You've got Bo Nix in Oregon. You've got Shador in Colorado. You've got the kid in Oklahoma. There's a couple other ones. I knew their names until I started calling them out by name. But I mean, there's probably 6 or 7 that are going to go in the first round next year because there's 6 or 7 teams that need a quarterback. But I mean, there's a lot of good defensive players. So if you lose Snead, there's a good chance you could find a number 2 corner because McDuffie plays better on the outside. So you move Najee or somebody, or find you a slot corner and move Najee to the other side, so that he's not following the number 1, he's following the number 2, and he still might have a really good defense. That Connor kid, I haven't seen a lot of him. You know what I'm saying? Maybe they're just kind of hiding him for now, and he's better than nobody's talking about.
Yeah, I think the defense is only going to get more fun to watch as the season goes. But
I have to give Spags a lot of credit, man, because I didn't have no faith in him when he first got here. And then I thought those boys played better in spite of him last year in the beginning and then later, but what he's doing this year with those young kids, man, I'm like, man, this defense is good. Like, this is, I mean, I don't know when he ate his Wheaties over the offseason, but like this defense, I mean, he's sending people from different stuff he wasn't doing last year. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, okay, good defense from Mahomes. I'm with it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think we got to give props to Dave Merritt for the coaching job he's doing there. He might not be in Kansas City much longer either, because his secondary, those guys are ballers, and we add in Joe Cullen there, the defensive line, and yeah, it'll be fun to see the defense continue to get better. And like I said, I still think that once we get to the bye week, we're going to see, all right, this is when Andy legit puts the offensive players in positions to succeed. Jeremy says, don't to not count out the donkeys. They still play us tight. And yeah, I'm not trying to look past them. I'm trying to look at this from a perspective between last year and this year, the differences in the coaching staffs and the differences in the way the units are playing. And to me, it's like, so we saw in the Super Bowl, the number one offense and the number one defense was the exact same team. We had the number two offense and number two defense. The difference was we had Patrick Mahomes. It's like the Broncos don't have either of those two things. So on paper, and again, on paper, right? On paper, to me, this should be a double-digit win. Doesn't mean it's going to be. I'm not saying it's going to be. I don't like to do score predictions because, any given Sunday, and in this case, any given Thursday. And so, yeah, I'm not looking past the Broncos. I'm just saying on paper, this game should be a double-digit win. But Gooch, I'm going to let you hit this one from Daryl, because you don't mind taking, you don't mind the smoke for being 100%
critical of Patrick.
Look at Gooch right now. Do you see a cap on? There's no cap with what he says here. Now I feel like I got to take mine off. So Daryl says, is it me or is Mahomes not looking as himself? So Gooch, break it down for us.
The problem is I am watching him. I don't know if a lot of y'all notice. He's doing a lot more of that fade, chuck off his back foot. And there's going to be people saying that, the tackles got to get used to Mahomes, this, that, and the other. Orlando still wasn't used to Mahomes after 2 years or so, he says, and Mahomes was stepping up. I think he's at that point in the season that he always gets. If you watch his footwork, he's off. He's not planting. If something's wrong with him, they're not saying, but he's not planting his feet and throwing the ball. He's trying to use his whole arm again. And I don't know if it's because he's still learning the new guys, and so he's trying to wait and find the guys that he's got rapport with and chuck them the ball. But he looks, he's got happy feet in the pocket, which is why he's not as accurate as he has been, and he looks different. Hopefully, or not even hopefully, one of the things that Andy has been good at is Andy kind of lets him see if he can figure it out, and then Andy reels him in and starts making him, giving him plays where he has to plant his feet and kind of get back into the groove. He usually only lasts 3 or 4 games, but luckily for us, it's at the start of the season and we're 4-1. I mean, and before division games start and all of that. But yeah, that's why he's not looking himself. He's the pass to Watson. All anybody sees is, great pass, Watson high pointed it. What they don't see is Patrick backed up 10 yards and threw off his back foot. It was the Super Bowl. Tyreek's down there somewhere and just kind of chucked the ball. And that's been a lot of his a lot of his problems have been his footwork, which is why he's been throwing high. He's been throwing off to the right, too much in front or behind receivers. He's just not on his game right now, but he'll get it back. I have faith in him. I hate agreeing with Nick Wright because I think he's a homer and a LeBron lover, and he's signed to their agency or whatever like that. But on a team with right now the best coach in the NFL and the best quarterback in the NFL, the main problem with your team is offensive struggles, I'd sign up for that because that's going to get fixed. But yeah, that's why Mahomes looks different. Sorry.
Yeah, and
but I do
I'll
want the
say,
smoke. If you want to argue with me, I'll take it.
I'll say this because for whatever anyone says about Brady, every season, I think it was always during the Super Bowl bye, right? You always saw the story about him getting with his personal quarterback coach and fine tuning his mechanics. Because even Brady, his mechanics would get off. He would get a little lazy or sloppy, and he would go back to his coach to get his mechanics fine tuned to get right back where he needed to be. So, it's not like it's a Mahomes only thing there. Although I think in this case, what Gooch is saying is there's some particulars with the team itself that are kind of lending to Pat doing some of these things. And I want to throw this out to you, Gooch, and see what you think about it. What if part of that, part of the arm throwing and stuff that we're seeing right now is that hesitancy with some of the receivers not seeing the coverage the same way Pat is. And so, you almost get like not even quite like a pump fake, but, just like a little hitch there where, oh God, are they seeing this or am I going to have an interception that looks stupid? It looks like I'm throwing it to this guy because the receiver isn't seeing the same thing that I am. Or is the receiver going to stop in the middle of this route like we've seen sometimes, or even out of the corner of his eye he sees Sky or someone open, and that messes with his processing. Because I always kind of laugh when people say Mahomes didn't see, so and so was open, Mahomes didn't see him. And like, first off, it's like we get so accustomed to playing Madden, where we're like third person, where we see the quarterback, where we see the offensive line, and we see the receivers, and we're playing quarterback, and we can see every receiver, the whole time, and we can, we have a, depending on how big your TV is, you don't have to look very far. Look to the left or look to the right to see your receivers. You can see, all of them right in front of you on the screen there. But in my mind, Mahomes' peripheral vision is good enough that he can see those guys when they're not open, but the offense still has progressions. And, if the defense, and I think that's one of the things we forget, is a pre-snap, you're reading the defense. And on a lot of these plays, this is your number one receiver. If the defense shows, too high, zone or, whatever. I'm giving an example now. And so you see that as a quarterback, as your pre-snap read, and in Andy's offense, it's like, okay, we're going to this route. This is the receiver that should be open. And then you get some of these defensive coordinators like Lou Anarumo, who I have a lot of respect for, who just completely screw with you. Evero was good about it. And, before him, Vic Fangio was good about it. Completely messing up your pre-snap read. And then it's like, okay, this guy's supposed to be open, so you're waiting for him to be open. Or, the defense starts to roll their coverage, and then you're like, oh, all right, well, now I got to move on. Now I got to process this all on the fly. And it's like, we just kind of think of it in kind of Madden terms of, depending if you play PlayStation or Xbox, all right, I need to hit X or Y or A or B, or square, circle, X, triangle, whatever. And you see the one guy, you see the other one, and we think it's just that simple. but it's not.
Okay. Now I'm going to start. I'm going to get all that into this. I am not a National Football League quarterback, nor will I have never been, nor will I ever be. But for those of us that are at home and we're watching a game and we're like, oh, you should have seen that guy because on our TV, he was open. Okay, so here's the thing. In the time that it takes most people to pick up their phone and hit answer, Patrick has to take a snap, read 11 guys on a defense, find a guy that's open and get rid of the ball. 5 seconds is about all he has from snap to throw. You know what I'm saying? So when he takes a snap and he backs up, he has to glance around the whole field real quick. And if the guy's not open, when he looks, he's already off the read. Like some of us can't get out of bed in 5 seconds. Patrick has to survey 50 yards of field and find a guy that could break open and get him the ball. On top of the fact that not only is Patrick 6'2", Creed is his shortest lineman at 6 foot, 6'1". The rest of those boys are tall, so he's got to look over or through them. While he's got people like Chris Jones, 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", trying to take him down. All of this, I say all of that to say, in a pressure-packed situation, he has, or in a phone booth, he has 5 seconds to get rid of the ball from snap to throw. So he's trying to buy himself more time by backing up and fading. He hasn't worked a lot of the receivers, Justin Ross, Smith Marset until he got hurt, even Kadarius Toney, even though he was here for the last half of last year, he missed most of training camp. Patrick is now looking for the guys that he's been throwing to regularly, and his mechanics are off. And like Key said, this isn't Madden. You don't have the down from the press box view on the whole field, and you're like, oh, that guy has already started his break and he's got a step, because on a field with defensive linemen who run 4.5 and linebackers who run 4.3, you don't have that kind of time. Like, you just have to glance and throw. He's going to get back to being Mahomes. He's the best quarterback in the league. And after the bye, I'm with Keys. I think you're going to see a lot. But it's still the beginning of the season. I think we've been, I don't want to say coddled, but I think we've been blessed with the kind of September and October that we normally have, that we don't get to, outside from the year when we started 2-4 or whatever like that a couple of years ago. Like, you don't see the struggles because you're like, oh, it's just Patrick and Andy and they'll make it work. And chemistry's a thing. You know what I'm saying? Momentum's a thing. And it's something that has to be worked on. And they've only really had 6 weeks? I mean, this isn't old school training camp where you had 2-a-day practices and half of them were in pads. And like, this is, pitch and catch mostly. And a lot of them you can't really see what you've got until you start taking live rounds, even in the preseason, until you start getting everybody's best shot. I wouldn't trip about it that much. It's going to get worked out. We're still going to win 12, 13 games. And right now, I actually thought the Jags would be the 1 seed. We're actually in the running for the 1 seed. I figured the Jags would have the 1 seed because their schedule's so easy. But they've struggled. But hey, thanks for beating the Bills. Who's no longer a Super Bowl team, in my opinion, after they lost
Milano
and Tre'Davious.
and Trey, yeah.
And I like those guys. I hate the Bills, but those guys are solid players. I like good players.
Well, I mean, they've had a play without Tre'Davious White for what? Almost a season and a half or two now? So he's a good player, but I don't know if that's what knocked them down, simply because they were still making it to the playoffs without him. Like he didn't play at all last year, did he? Or am I forgetting? I didn't think he played at all last year.
Did
I
he
thought he
not?
just came back. I thought he just came back this preseason from injury. I'm gonna
Maybe
look it up here.
I thought he played. I'm not sure.
I could be completely
No,
off.
you're probably actually right
Oh,
because I think you're right. Did you hear that they're gonna bring in Josh Norman?
no, I didn't.
Yeah, I think they signed him, or they're bringing him in for a workout, or whatever. You don't want to bring that guy in. That guy is It's a, I'm gonna bring some NBA 2K into this. You bring in Josh Norman, that guy's barbecue chicken. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Been that way for a couple of years now, right? 2 or 3
Yeah,
years. Like,
yeah, he's not.
so here's what's
Barbecue
gonna
chicken
happen.
alert.
Here's what's gonna happen. Justin Watson's gonna blow, or yeah, Justin Watson's gonna blow past him when we play the Bills, and he's gonna retire after that. I'm calling this shot right now. Justin Watson's gonna blow past him, score a touchdown. He's gonna say, "Did a white guy just run past me?" He's like, "I'm done. I
That's gonna
can."
be that would be the second Bills player to quit during the. Who was the first one? Do you remember that the guy he went in at halftime and basically quit and retired or whatever? It was a Bills player. I just can't remember who.
Oh, I can't think of who it was. That's who was it? That's basically what happened to Richard Sherman. Who was it? So he was telling the story. I remember him telling the story I forget who the receiver was running routes against him and basically made him injure his knee, and he's like, "I'm done. Like I can't hang with these young kids anymore. I'm done." And it's like,
That was when oh good God, he's on TV. Ryan Clark, no, not Ryan Clark. Oh, Ryan Clark quit because he had to tackle Derrick Henry or somebody at one point. And he was like, I can't do it anymore. He actually tells that story. I can't think of who you're talking about. I know who you're talking about, but yeah. Oh, let me do this before we forget. I'm going to bring a little segment from the huddle in. The Broncos win this game if the Chiefs all of a sudden get COVID and can't play in the game. I just don't see it. I shouldn't be. Let me knock on wood because I shouldn't be that sure because, like you said, any given Sunday. But if we're going to get beat by the Broncos, it'll happen in Denver, and somebody will be fighting for their job, and it'll just miraculously happen. That's what I think. And if it's going to be this, like Mahomes hasn't lost a road AFC West game yet, which is weird when you think about it. Like 6 years in, and he wins on the road. Um, and the Raiders are second place in our division. Who would have thought that?
right.
uh, the Raiders, might beat us. Nah. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I hear you back there, baby.
yeah, they're chatting up a storm back there. Hey, Julian, it's good to see you as well. Gooch, are you the one chatting here, or is Aaron in the chat?
Oh no, it's me. I'm
All
Chad.
right, all right. So Liz says our tight end room looks like it's on lock for the foreseeable future. In her opinion, even if Kelsey was to retire, our tight ends are our biggest offensive threat on the field in the secondary.
Mm, no. The Gray doesn't get the separation like Kelsey. Although he does make, for as good as his hands were in college, it's almost like he has trouble catching the routine. He reminds me of
Demetrius Harris.
thank you.
Don't say it. Don't say it.
The routine is hard, but he makes those difficult juggling, bobbling catches and makes them look easy. I wish Fortson could stay healthy. I think then I'd have more faith in the tight end room, but I think these injuries have run him out of Chiefs Kingdom, unfortunately. Bushman has to work on his blocking unless he, because we can't have no tight ends that don't know how to block. I mean, that's what Blake Bell is for, really. And I think it needs a little bit of work, but it's not far off. I think if you lose Kelsey, you'd need 4 tight ends on the roster. That's what I think. And yeah, but
Yeah, I'm with you. I like Gray, and I would love to see a healthy Fortson for a season, but the tight end room now after Travis, to me, Gray is like he's a solid backup, but I wouldn't want to see him as a starter in an offense. At least not in our offense, but maybe like if you still had a healthy Juju, or if one of the young receivers can replace what Travis brings, then maybe, because you use Noah in a different way in that scenario. But yeah, I don't know. Like, and we can spring off of this question here. But to me, I think the most impressive receivers I've seen on the roster so far, outside of Tony, who can't stay healthy, is the offensive Dan Sorensen back when he was still making clutch plays, and Rashee Rice. And like, to me, those two, I mean, Justin Watson, that Vikings game, he made 2 amazing catches. Like, just 2 amazing catches. And he's made what, 4 or 5 this season so far. Like, that's about all he makes is great catches, which is a little weird, but I mean, I would rather see him targeted over, Noah Gray, and certainly any tight end after Gray. But man, in training camp and preseason, I had a lot of, hope for Bushman. I had a lot of hope for Fortson before he got injured. And I think I was looking for Gray to take a bit more of a bigger step this year, to where, you could be fine like week 1 not having Travis, and going back to what you said, by the way, you're 4-1, and the one game you lost, you lost by 1 point without the greatest tight end ever and currently the best defensive tackle in the NFL. And, if Andy had a whole week to plan for no Travis, it might have been a different story. But it was what, Tuesday, Wednesday of game week of week 1 when Travis got injured.
It was Wednesday. It was their last practice before the game.
And so, yeah, injured. Like, you're having to basically take your game plan in, that features Travis and try to adjust on the fly, or completely throw it out and do something else. And you really can't do that. So, when you take everything in context, you got the offensive tackles playing their first game. You got the wide receivers playing, most of them playing their first game or the first game of their second season. And to lose that game by 1, to me, and you lose it off of a pick 6 that went through Kadarius Toney's hands, really, right? I mean, the defense was great in that game too, and the Lions offense is is really good. They're top 5, 6 offense. Like, people don't even know how good the Lions offense is, and we haven't even seen them at full strength. Because they've been injured. They've had some injuries this last week or two. JMO was suspended. Like, we've yet to see like an iteration of that offense with every single one of their pieces. And by the time, Jahmyr Gibbs figures out how to be an NFL running back, and they figure out the best ways to incorporate him in that offense, I mean, to me, it's going to be right up there with the Chiefs and Eagles, as far as how hard that offense is to stop. But, I'm kind of getting on a tangent here, but all that to say is, 4-1, Gooch, I don't know about you, but if we had done a preseason show like we wanted to, I think if we sat here going into this game and we're 4-1, both of us are ecstatic. Because I think it's not Kool-Aid snorter. I wouldn't even say 5-0 would be Kool-Aid snorter. I think 8 or 9-0 would be Kool-Aid snorter. But 4-1 is still pretty good. And I would feel, especially if you said, hey, you're not going to have Travis Kelce and Chris Jones for the first game. I think you're like, okay, well, through the first 5 games, then you're 4-1. But we lost that game by 1.
I would have taken 4-1 because if you would have asked me at the beginning of the season, if we had done the preseason show, I would have said we would have lost to the Jets because the Jets defense is legit and we didn't have any real vet receivers outside of MVS and Justin Watson and then, a bunch of young kids. So I would have been like, first, that early in the season.
And we thought it was going to be Aaron Rodgers, right?
Right. And Aaron Rodgers would have had his guys, Lazard and all them. So I would, and you saw what that defense did to the Chiefs offense. Like, it was a struggle, which it's supposed to be when you have a legit defense. Like the number one, second or third defense in the league with those young guys last year. You only expect, just like the Chiefs, you only expect them to get better. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I would have called that the loss instead of the Detroit game, but I would have taken 4-1 for sure. You know what I'm saying? Like, with ease. I'm like, 4-1? Yeah. I mean, and it's been a weird season anyway. You think we lost to Detroit. The Bengals started 0-3 or 0-2. And then, like, you know what I'm saying? The Bills got beat by the Jets without Aaron Rodgers. Who would have seen that coming? You know what I mean? Not to say, like, the defense on the Jets is legit, but Zach hadn't taken a single rep with the starters up until that game, and then Rodgers got hurt. So generally in those cases, you expect a blowout. The defense kept it tight and made the plays when they needed to. It's been a weird season. I mean, the Giants are who we thought they were. The Giants are who Keas thought they were from the very beginning.
Actually, they're not.
Oh, really? Like, I knew you loved Dayball, but I think we both were in agreement that Daniel Jones just wasn't it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I still thought he played decently last year, but for me, you had Dable and Kafka, and I got a lot of respect for those guys. And then they brought in who was it, Wink Martindale for their defensive coordinator, and the defense was already pretty decent. And then you bring in Darren Waller to add to the offense, because Jones didn't really have those weapons, outside
Waller
of Saquon.
Waller still can't stay healthy.
Yeah, but still, when he is healthy, you got to give Daniel Jones. You have to give quarterbacks like that weapons. You just have to. Daniel Jones, Mac Jones. If your last name is Jones, you need offensive weapons because you're not a great quarterback. Like, it's just fact. So
I want to touch on something real quick because Liz has asked about completions, the tight ends, and she sees drops being made by the wide receivers. And I think the drops are all across the board, in my opinion. And I think the reason why you don't see a lot of drops out of the tight ends is because one's Kelce, but the other one is because Noah Gray has been wide open, but if you notice, a lot of his contestant catches don't happen. And I think where you see the wide receivers dropping the ball, I still think that that's timing and chemistry because they're still learning. Like, yeah, we training camp is pitch and catch, but nobody's really trying. And I think when you get in front of 50, 60,000 people, they're all screaming. You're trying to concentrate. Remember, your routes in a very intricate and difficult offense. Sometimes the simplest things like making sure the ball hits your hands and not in your chest, like Michael Irvin tries to teach, and kind of fall by the wayside. It's just a matter of working on fundamentals. When we do something that we're naturally good at and we don't continue to work on it, a lot of times the basics tend to fall off. Patrick and his footwork, um, stuff like that. Jawan Taylor, if anybody noticed, he wasn't flagged at all last week. It's just a matter of going back to the basics. You know what I'm saying? And I think once they get used to getting more looks, getting more throws, I think you're going to see a lot more catches. This offense is still in the baby steps. Like we're so used to the defense in baby steps and catching up by the end of the year. We're not used to the offense not being able to just 35 points a game and we're rolling. But I think you'll see a difference. I think with Keas, Kelsey is the training wheels, and I actually think you're going to see a little less dependency on Kelsey as these receivers get more and more acclimated. Like one of the surprising things that I have seen is how quickly Rasheed is getting integrated into this offense as a rookie, and been really impressed with kind of like his growth. He still has drops, but I mean, in this offense and the way he's performing, like I already think he's got more yards than Sky had all of last year. And he's only 5 games in, or he's really close. I think Watson leads with 222 or something, or 172 or something like that, something silly. But I think you just give it time, Liz. You'll see.
Yeah, I see the question there, and I'll get to it here in a minute. But I don't know how much I'll be able to answer because it's so specific, and I don't have like PFF anymore, and would probably have to go digging on next gen stats or something. But we'll get back to it here in a second. Jeremy says we have the coaching advantage against everyone. So, Gooch, I just want to ask you this briefly. What team has the second best coaching advantage after us? And I'm going to take that as the whole, like head coach / offensive coordinator, or head coach / defensive coordinator, and then the opposite, like offense and defensive coaching together. What team do you think after Kansas City would you put after Kansas City?
I think there's only two that make sense and only two right answers. And you can go 2A, 2B, and you can use either one, or you can technically go Andy 1A, 1B, and 1C, and that's Shanahan and McVay. I think those are the only two that if they were standing on the other sideline, I'd be like, if it wasn't for Andy's experience, this might be a coaching advantage for them. McVay has a memory like no other. Like his memory is like Patrick's, only it's I think his is photographic or whatever. There are clips of him. Go on YouTube and look. Well, they'll ask him about a play 5 years ago. I actually saw one where they were in training camp and they're like, 4 years ago, you did this drive. It was to go up this many points, blah, 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 blah. And he named off every play all the way down the field. Like, there's some things you can't teach. And when you have that kind of memory, you can scheme for defenses like that. And Shanahan's system, whatever his father did, Kyle has perfected it. And he's got the right weapons in the right place and knows how to utilize them. So those would be the only two. Everybody else outside of, I think it's, if we're doing a Nick's tiers or a pyramid or whatever. Andy's at the top, then Shanahan and McVay, and then everybody else. And I think there's a gap.
Okay. Yeah, I was including both offense and defensive side. So,
Oh,
you know,
okay.
in my mind, it's Andy and Spags, you know, and so, but I'm still with you with the 49ers because I think Shanahan and Steve Wilks, even though, you know, you kind of had that revolving door defensive coordinator there where you had Robert Saleh, you know, who's now with the Jets, and D'Amico Ryans, who's now with the Texans. Um, you know, and I think Steve Wilks has done a fine enough job from what I've seen. But I'd probably go Shanahan and Wilks there. But, you know, I think for me it would be between them. And I know, you know, he's still young as far as coaches go, but I would go Mike McDaniels and Vic Fangio because I think between the two, you know, that combination, like if you're looking at offensive and defensive coaches, masterminds, you know, whatever, as a team grouping, I think to me that those three are probably the most, and maybe by the end of the season, you know, you could throw the Eagles on it. I guess if you know the way we're doing it, you could go ahead and throw the Eagles on there because I think Sirianni and is it Desi? Is that how you say his name? I think he's going to be there. I think those two are going to be there. Um, you know, everything I've read and seen from him, he's definitely an upgrade over Pew Pew, who's now with the Cardinals. And so, you know, I think those are.
Liz, I would not have said the hoodie because the game has passed the hoodie by. The game has evolved into an offensive game, and that's not his strength. If it was still defensive, we'd have, like, if defense still technically ruled the roost, we'd still have an argument for it. But this is Andy's league now, and everybody knows it. Like, he's been ahead of his time offensively for 20 years. He's just now getting to showcase his talents because he's finally got the quarterback. Pew pew. Oh God, I forgot about Mike McDaniel down there in Miami. I tell you what, you want a press conference that'll make you giggle. Look up any of Mike McDaniel's press conferences.
He's
Like,
not Bill Belichick.
Yeah, he is amazing. He is amazing on the mic. There was one press conference. I actually watched it because somebody put it on Twitter, and they asked him, "What's your relationship like with the refs?" And in a line, he was just like, "I wouldn't say it's monogamous." And he just kept going, and nobody caught it. Like, nobody sitting there caught it, but it's like it's stuff like that. Like, they asked him, "Hey, you broke the record for yards in 5 games. How do you feel about that?" And he was like, "Well, I'll tell you what, that's what we worked for this whole off
Yeah, I saw that
season."
one.
And he was like, "For 5 games." You know what I'm saying? Like, he doesn't care. He's like, he's the guy that you know is going to say something that the teacher hopes doesn't say anything. You know what I'm saying? And he's a great guy. He's a great watch. You know what I'm saying? And he's smart. Good football coach, I think. So yeah.
Yeah, you know that the one line you did, the second one you did, that's what I was thinking of because I read that line too, the through 5 weeks part. And I'm
Right.
like, yeah, I knew you were going to like him simply because of the sarcasm there. But
Yeah.
yeah, he's definitely funny. So yeah, not that
I can
Belichick isn't.
appreciate a
All the
good
stories about
sarcasm.
Belichick behind the scenes are that, you know, that he's funny, but Mike McDaniel actually puts the personality out there.
And yeah,
Belichick is.
the only thing I've ever heard Belichick say was the Kelsey thing. That's when I actually was like, oh shit, he came up with that on the fly. Did you hear him when he said that?
No.
They asked Bill Belichick on his podcast, what do you think about Travis Kelsey and Taylor Swift? And he said, well, Kelsey has made a lot of big catches in his career, and this is probably his biggest one. And it just rolled off the tongue. He doesn't laugh. Everybody else is laughing, but he says it so deadpan that it's funny as heck. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, wow, Bill, that was like right off the cuff. But you don't get to see a lot of that because we're on to Cincinnati.
Yeah, you got to be in the inner circle to be blessed, I think, with the abundance of his personality. I think he he doesn't just kind of show it off for everybody. So Maui says defensive line coach Joe Cullen changed the whole personality of this defense, and Gooch said, "Yeah, he did." Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan of Joe Cullen. Uh, Maui also said when Gooch speaks, it's always no cap except for when he talks about concrete footman, Mr. Orlando Brown. Gooch just came around.
In my defense, I have come around, and I think somebody was making. I think Keys was bringing up that somebody was making a case for that Orlando Brown was still learning. Patrick Mahomes has dropped his second year, and this, that, and the other. So Joe Burrow doesn't back up as much as Mahomes does, and he's still a swinging fence, swinging gate. Like I'm watching replays, and he's being pushed into Joe Burrow's lap by power rushers. So now it's like, what's the excuse now? Like Joe Burrow is still getting hit, and now he can't move because of that calf.
And you were actually bringing that up last year, though, that, Gooch started to come around. I remember last year you were like, there were a couple power rushers that were giving Orlando fits. And that's when I'm saying you basically said, and that's when I was like, okay. Yeah, if you can't beat speed, then you can't beat the power rushers all the time.
What are you good
you can't get Trent Williams money.
Right. No, because Trent Williams, for as vicious as he is, and as big as he is, and as old as he is, because he's like 6 years older than Orlando, if he's still blocking speed and power rushers and doing it at a high level, if you can't do it, there's no way you're getting his kind of money. Like, there's no way. Like, when you watch Trent Williams and you watch Orlando Brown, and you thinking about the fact that Orlando Brown wanted Trent Williams money, they're not even the same. They're not even the same stratosphere. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like tax brackets. You got Trent Williams way up here, and then down here somewhere is Orlando Brown. He shouldn't even sniff the same air as Trent Williams. And I know the Bengals are like 80 million, and we let Leo Collins walk. I'd move him to right, Cincy. I'd move him to right and throw a bunch of money at a left tackle.
Yeah,
I mean, we did it. It's not embarrassing. Like, we signed Juwan Taylor. Everybody assumed it was to be a left tackle, but he still needed to learn it. We paid him $80 million. He's our right tackle. If he switches to the left next year, if he's got it, cool. If not, you know what? Protect the $500 million guy.
Yeah, I'm fine either way. And, again, one of the things that I said, yeah, because everybody knows that Joe Burrow doesn't drop as far back, but at the same time, one of the things I said was, yeah, but still, Orlando had Joe Tooney right next to him. He's not going to have that in Cincinnati, and even then, you don't have a Joe Tooney, a Creed Humphrey, and then a Trey Smith in that interior offensive line in Cincinnati. And one of the things that always puzzled me was, if you were a Bengals fan, you saw how your defensive ends abused Orlando Brown with speed. And the only argument they had in their mind was, yeah, but Burrow gets the ball out in 2 seconds, which is a legit comeback, but he hasn't done it. And then, and he's playing injured, and that just exacerbates everything. Maybe he looks better next year, but yeah, I don't know. Liz says, name a receiver this year that has more completions on play action. All right, so this was the question we were talking about. Yeah, Liz, I do not have that stat. Like, all I can give you at this point is receivers, what their receptions are. And, of course, Travis leads the way over everyone. But I only see 2 tight ends even on the stats. And one is Blake Bell with 2 receptions total. I don't know if either of those are off of play action, but 2 total. And then Noah Gray has 10 receptions, which puts him behind Justin Watson, Isaiah Pacheco, Kadarius Toney, Rashee Rice, and Travis Kelce. So, even then, Kadarius Toney hasn't even played a whole lot. He has 14 receptions total. Rashee Rice has 17. Like I said, Pacheco has 11 and Justin Watson has 10. And so,
who's Kadarius? Oh, you mean Sammy Watkins 2.0? I forget sometimes.
right.
19, 14. I get those numbers mixed up.
So, but yeah, those are different stats, advanced stats. I don't pay for PFF anymore, and I don't have pages for like next gen stats or anything on my tabs here. But if Gooch has all that stuff and he wants to look it up, he can. But that would be research for him.
You know I'm gonna do some digging. I've got PFF. I'm about to get it in since she asked. That'll be on the next show. Actually, you know what? Maybe I'll cover something tomorrow after the game. Hey, since we're back, you know what I'm saying? And speaking of which, we're running a little late, and my boy's got to do what he's got to do. We may have to cut y'all soon.
Yeah, we have probably we're about at 7 minutes here, so we'll try to see how we go. If we go over a minute or two, we can do that. But I really don't want to. I'm gonna have to go to bed because I got to get up to go to work. And Thunder Dan
I'm just taking
his
calls.
live stream. So
yeah, we don't want to cut into Thunder Dan's because we don't want to be battling shows and stuff like that. We don't do that kind of thing here. And yes, I still think he's the greatest defensive coach of all time. I'm really concerned that he won't make it through. I'm really concerned he won't make it through the season. I don't think he's going to catch Shula. He only needs 18 wins, but I don't know if he's going to catch him. I'm worried about that. I'd like to see him go out. He's great. I mean, people don't like him. The thing is, and I hate defending. They call him a cheater because he knew the rules and he knew the loopholes and he knew how to use them. We all do it in our normal jobs. We half-ass it or find some kind of way to do our job without actually technically doing it by the book. And Bill Belichick memorized the NFL rules. I mean, what is it?
right.
If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. You know what I'm saying? That's wrong. Don't cheat, kids.
Listen, the Patriots aren't a dynasty anymore. So like the whole blinded by hatred thing, kind of went away for me. I have a lot of respect for Belichick as a coach, and I'm intrigued by him as a person as I read more, from like behind the scenes type of stuff from him. I think you can make a couple, maybe just 2 moves on that Patriots team. Now, losing Christian Gonzalez to that injury was just terrible.
Yeah,
But going into next year, I think it could be as simple as, Kirk Cousins is going to be a free agent, if I recall correctly. Give him a 2-year fully guaranteed contract that he's used to. I think Kirk Cousins could put Belichick back where he was. Mac Jones is just not it. He's not, to me, he's not much different than Daniel Jones. I'm sorry, Gooch. I know he's your Bama boy, but
hey, look, I never said Bama produced quarterbacks. All right, I never said it. I mean, Tua turned the ball over for a while, and then he started getting headaches, and then like McDaniels figured out, hike, throw, snap, throw, because you can't leave Tua back there. He's going to get hurt again. And we claim Jalen Hurts, but in reality, he's Oklahoma. So, but yeah, I could see Kirk Cousins going there. He's exactly what, okay. If you squint your eyes and tilt your head a little to the left, he's basically what Tom Brady was. He's really a game manager who can make those short intermediate throws and on occasions hit you for the over-the-top pass. But if he's not asked to do a lot, he won't lose you the game. You know what I'm saying? He won't win it for you either, but he won't lose it for you. Like, he'll take you down the field. You have to have the playmakers around you, blah, 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 blah. And for those of you who are like, oh, Tom Brady, the first 2 or 3 Super Bowls, they were won by defense. He was along for the ride. You know what I'm saying? So, but I could see that. I could see Cousins doing that. It actually might be a smart move.
Yeah, and I think everyone who saw the game, the Chiefs and Vikings game, was probably surprised by, they flashed the little graphics of a comparison with Mahomes and Kirk Cousins to see, Cousins has basically been number 2 behind Mahomes. I think it was since 2018 when Mahomes, first started. In basically every category, it's been Mahomes, and then Cousins has been number 2 since that time. Just kind of go with what Gooch is saying. So, like, to me, I think that's the one move that would save Belichick's, I don't want to say, save his time in New England, or prolong it, is what I'll say. Like, prolong him from getting fired. But if he ever did get fired, if I'm Clark Hunt, I'm like, hey, come join our staff, win some more Super Bowls. Sorry, Spags.
Be an advisor or something like that. Well, maybe not an advisor, like you said. Sorry, Spags, because if you got Bill Belichick with Andy Reid, and Andy didn't have to do nothing with the defense, and Bill could just defense is his thing. I mean, he still spooks young quarterbacks at his age with his defenses. Can you imagine? Oh my God. Bill not running the show, just running defense? That'd be crazy.
So Robert says Detroit Lions in there somewhere. I'm assuming, Robert, you're talking back to our coaches question that we tackled a few minutes ago. And listen, I got a lot of respect for Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson, their offensive coordinator, someone I think is going to end up a head coach next year for another team. But I didn't list Detroit because, to me, Aaron Glenn is, I'll put him above Vance Joseph, but he's not up there in that same echelon that I would put Fangio or Wilkes, or, even include Spags on, Anarumo, Robert Saleh, that I would put those guys on, D'Amico Ryans. So, for me, that's why I didn't mention them. It's not because, I think Dan Campbell as a head coach in general, he's a great guy. I'd put him up there with like a John Harbaugh, just from what I've seen, in
I tell you what, if you want to talk motivational coaches, Dan Campbell's probably at the top of my list. Like, that guy gets his players to perform above what they are, run through walls for him. He gets them motivated because he's a regular guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's just in, his first press conference, a lot of people crapped on him, but you know what he is? He's a fan of football that's smart enough to be a head coach. And I like that. You know what I'm saying? I like seeing guys like McDaniel who give you some sarcasm, or Dan Campbell who is just so excited to be doing that he's not trying to be eloquent when he speaks. You know what I'm saying? He's just a guy. And I'm sure when he's not coaching, he's sitting in the Barca lounger with a beer, you know what I'm saying, doing something. I mean, like, so, I mean, no diss to Dan Campbell at all, or the Detroit Lions. Like, I like that guy. If I was going to be a football player and I needed proper motivation, I'd go play for him. You know what I'm saying? Because he's going to get the most out of you, and he's going to be right there with you, good times and bad. He's going to be right there. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of respect for him. We're not pooping on him, dog.
Between Campbell, like I said, between Campbell and Ben Johnson, I think Ben Johnson is a hell of an offensive mind. To me, it's just Aaron Glenn. And I'm not saying Aaron Glenn is trash. I don't think he's trash. I just don't think he's even a top 10, top 12, maybe top 15 defensive coordinator. So, we're looking at guys to me that are in that top 5, top 7, top 8, on both sides of the ball. And so, yeah, that's why I didn't list the Lions on there, but definitely they have it on the offensive side. If they had an up and coming defensive mind, like Evero, who the Broncos had last year after Fangio left, then yeah, I'm right there with you. Or a Sean Desi, or one of those types of guys. I would put them there. I don't need to see a whole lot from Desi to believe in that Eagles defense. And man, does he have pieces to work with. But we're gonna get ready to go. And if someone has one more question, we can hit that. But I want to leave you with one, Gooch, since you brought up Dan Campbell is the best, in your mind, the best NFL motivator. So I want to talk about someone who seems to be the best college motivator as a head coach, and ask you what you think his prospects are next year or the following couple of years to actually become an NFL head coach. Or will Dion just stay in college?
I think he'll stay in college. I don't even have to think. He has given interviews. He believes that God has called him to coach college and teach these kids how to be men, how to be professionals. And I think he's in the perfect place to do it. I don't think that he wants the headache of trying to coach guys who are there, have been there, feel like they're better than, or Dion can't tell them anything because they're making millions and millions of dollars. I don't think he wants it. I think he wants to be able to show these young men, white and black, because he has the white players on Colorado too, even though you don't notice them, they're there, and some of them are starters. But I think he wants to have a positive effect on these young kids and make them turn them back. And this is going to be unpopular. Please don't cancel me, but make them the men that they seem to be lacking, that this new generation seems to be lacking coming up right now, with no responsibility, no accountability, no anything. I think he'll get plenty of calls. I think Jerry Jones will be the first one to call him, because I think this might be McCarthy's last year if they don't make the NFC Championship game. But I think he's going to stay. I like what he's doing. You know what I'm saying? I like it. I like that he's trying to change something in college football to make it more attractive for other people aside from the diehards. Like, I'm Alabama, and there ain't nothing about Iowa or Iowa State, even though Keas doesn't like them. There's nothing about that you can't ask Keas and he doesn't know. You know what I'm saying? And I think bringing in the casual fan is good for college, to get fresh eyes on it and get people to be invested in these kids. It's going to eventually be professionals, and support them and give them kind of stuff that they didn't have. And I don't think he's going to stay in Colorado.
I was going to ask you about that because, yeah,
I think he'll give Colorado. I think if when Shador and Shiloh go to the league, I think he's gone. And I think he can get Shador and Shiloh to stay one more year, but then after that, I think they're gone and he's gone. And then I think he goes to Florida State if they're not winning.
Interesting. Yeah,
he wanted the Florida State job before he took Colorado.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that you're right. I'm trying to think of all the coaches who have come in kind of with Dion's personality. It's hard to be an NFL head coach. And hold players to a certain standard. Now, Andy does it, but he also lets his players get away with things. And Belichick, I think there's a reason why Belichick's guys go off and they don't have the same success. And, we're even seeing it now. You're talking about the game passing him by. I think maybe he just, this newer generation, you don't have Tom Brady there. so you don't have the same kind of buy-in from players. You know, he had that every year. You bring in veterans, you know, they're there because they've bought in. You have Tom Brady, you have Bill Belichick. Like that part of it's gone. You can't coach NFL players the same way you coach these college kids. But I was going to ask you if you thought he was going to stay, because I don't think he's going to stay there. It's just not, you know, it seemed like he's kind of a stair stepper. I do think he's going to stay in college though. And, you know, I'm a little biased and I'm a little bitter. I spent 7 years in Jackson, Mississippi. So I understand what Deion Sanders being at Jackson State meant to the boys who were there, who were trying to become men. I know what it meant to the football fans there, you know. And so I'm a little biased and I'm a little bitter, you know, at Deion, but I'm trying to not to bring that in here. Like if he wants to go to Florida State, he can go to Florida State. I think that's probably where he'll eventually end up, and maybe he'll stick there. You know, all I would say is if he's really going for you know the kids who need him, he probably shouldn't be going to the best Power 5 schools, because a lot of the players that are going to be the top recruits there probably aren't going to be the kinds of players that need him. So that's all I would say. But I do think there are players that need him. I just hope he coaches where those players are. But we'll see. Deion is Deion. So it's his, like, it's his life. It's his ability. It's his calling. You know, I can't speak for him. So, but, yeah, Mike, we're getting ready to leave, but it's good to see you too. Our plan is to, if we have to bump it up to 7 p.m. Arrowhead time so we can fit in more, we'll end up doing that. But right now, 7:30 p.m. Wednesday nights, 7:30 p.m. Central Time, Arrowhead time is when Gooch and I will plan to go for about an hour and a half, 9 p.m. Central Time. And yeah, guys, it's been great to be back here, but it's time to go. So, Gooch.
Appreciate all y'all. We're so glad to be back. We have missed you. Anybody that's watching this, whether you've watched us in previous episodes or anything like that, we're going to try and come to you regular. So am I. We'll get Dub on. Take care of yourselves. It's been a pleasure tonight, an honor of mine to be on here with y'all. Take care of yourselves. Make sure you tell somebody you love them. And to take a line from Deion, give me my theme music.
You got your team, and we got a kingdom. Ready for war.